Hello, my name is Olivia Nelson. I recently celebrated my 30th birthday. Today, I would like to share with you a significant turning point in my life. I have an older sibling who is 2 years my senior. His name is Scott. From a young age, Scott could be described as a handsome young man. His facial features developed early on, and his attractive appearance became a topic of conversation in our neighborhood. There were even rumors about talent scouts from modeling agencies showing interest in him. He was truly a heartthrob, likable, intelligent, and quick-witted, even as a child. Our parents and the adults around us all adored him. On the other hand, for some reason, I was the only one in our family who had a bit of extra weight since kindergarten. Despite having similar facial features to Scott, being a bit chubby seemed to detract from my charm, to say the least. I was shy, not very outgoing, and not much of a talker, which meant that I never received the same praise as Scott for being a smart kid. I noticed from an early age that people often compared us and labeled us as complete opposites. It seems like our parents also picked up on this talk. By the time I reached elementary school, it felt like my parents had lost interest in me. I didn't perform as well as Scott did on school tests at the same age, and I continued to struggle with my weight. While Scott would be served an afternoon snack, I wouldn't receive the same treatment. Despite this, I remained chubby. My mother would often chuckle and remark, "You really are as round as a ball." When I was young, I didn't fully comprehend her intentions, and I simply felt joyous that she was laughing. However, upon reflection, I realized that I was merely the subject of her jests. Scott would receive new attire and footwear for various reasons, such as his birthday or scoring a goal at his soccer club. Meanwhile, despite being a girl, I would receive hand-me-downs from Scott, not only clothes but also shoes. I cannot recall how many times I stumbled because the shoes didn't fit me properly. The only possession I cherished was the backpack bestowed upon me by my grandparents, exclusively for my use, before they passed away. After some time, Scott completed elementary school and moved on to a private middle school. My parents were elated when he gained admission to a prestigious institution renowned for its high academic standards. Around this period, Scott's striking appearance led to him being scouted as a child model. As a result, my parents, particularly my mother, would frequently accompany Scott and intentionally stroll down bustling streets like Fifth Avenue. It seemed as if she was proclaiming, "Look how handsome my son is." On the other hand, I cannot recall ever going out with my mother. Perhaps it occurred when I was a baby, but not after I matured and became aware of my surroundings. Once, Scott proposed, "Next time, let's bring Olivia along too." I believe even as a child, he recognized that our parents were neglecting me. However, my mother simply grimaced at Scott's words and replied, "Yes, someday." I did not feel content about Scott's considerate remark. Instead, I felt wretched. Many years later, I found myself entering middle school. Unlike Scott, I attended a regular public middle school. At first, my parents didn't have high expectations for me, so it seemed like they had no plans of allowing me to take any exams. My father even stated, "I cannot afford to spend money on you." I didn't necessarily desire to go to a private school, but hearing such things from the beginning made me feel as though my options in life were being limited. When I was younger, I vaguely wondered if this was how it was for other siblings. I had no knowledge of how other families functioned. By the time I became aware of my surroundings, the abnormalities of my household had become the norm. During this time, as I went through puberty, I started questioning why I was the only one being treated differently. However, the treatment I received from my parents only grew stricter. Even though my mother was a homemaker and should have had time, she often assigned me chores and sent me shopping while she went out to socialize with her friends. Similarly, my father would accuse me of neglecting household chores whenever I expressed a desire to play with my friends. My brother always showed concern for me, helped me out, and even argued with our parents on my behalf. but they refused to listen to his opinions when it came to how they treated me. Eventually, my brother became focused on preparing for high school entrance exams and moved on to one of the top preparatory schools in the state. This meant that he no longer had time to pay attention to me or our home. And that's when I truly began to comprehend the depths of hardship. The initial occurrence was the absence at the parent-teacher gathering. In other households, parents skipping a parent-teacher meeting would be a significant issue. But for my parents, it was more like, we're not attending, so what? Therefore, it wasn't really considered an event. Throughout my 3 years of middle school, my parents only attended one meeting when I was in my first year. They didn't come during my second year, or even during the crucial time of my third year when exams were approaching. My homeroom teacher worried anything happening at home, but I disregarded it. I understood that my situation wasn't normal, but it's not as if my parents were physically abusive. I didn't know how to articulate the ongoing mental anguish I was going through. It felt humiliating to discuss it, as if I was admitting that I am an unloved child by her own parents. The incidents persisted. The abandonment on New Year's Eve. At the end of that year, my parents took my brother to my mother's hometown and left me behind. Until the previous year, I was included, but that year they said, "You're a student preparing for exams, so stay at home and study." I suppose studying was just an excuse. They probably just found me bothersome. Consequently, I ended up spending New Year's Eve all by myself. I didn't want to ask my friends to hang out on such a day because it felt like saying, I am a solitary child who was left behind. So I stayed home without meeting anyone. I experienced a wave of emotional pain as I found myself watching the Grammys in solitude. Later, I switched to the New Year's Eve specials and eventually went to bed, shedding a few tears. The following morning, I was abruptly awakened by the incessant ringing of the doorbell. It was too early for my family to be returning, so I anxiously checked the doorbell camera to see who it was. To my surprise, I saw my mother's side uncle and aunt standing outside. Startled, I quickly made my way to the door with disheveled bed hair and asked what was going on. "Olivia, it's time for you to leave this house," my uncle stated abruptly. "We've already discussed this with your mother. Don't worry, we will take care of all the necessary formalities." Confused and taken aback by his demeanor, I stammered, "Wait, what do you mean?" In a soft tone, my aunt replied, tears welling in her eyes, "Olivia, if you don't mind, we would like you to become our daughter. We have never been able to have children of our own, but ever since you were born, we have always considered you as our own." At that moment, I couldn't fully grasp the situation at hand. It became clear to me that my aunt and uncle, who were unable to conceive due to an illness, had always showered me with love and affection whenever they visited. They cared for me deeply and often criticized my parents' treatment towards me. While my parents focused on my older brother, it was my aunt and uncle who spent quality time with me. My aunt played with me, and my uncle would spoil me with the latest treats and adorable clothes. The memories I shared with them far outweighed those with my own parents. My uncle, who had just had a conversation with my parents that went something like this: "Your parents, they have no intention of allowing you to attend high school. They mentioned that once you reach 16 years old, they want you to work in order to support Scott's college education. We cannot ignore this situation. Olivia, you have the privilege to receive an education, and there is no need for you to exhaust yourself for the sake of the family." I was taken aback. I had no prior knowledge that my parents intended to deprive me of my future for the benefit of my brother. It then became clear why they had not attended any parent-teacher meetings in the past few years. They had no interest in me or my dreams and aspirations. They expected me to toil like a beast of burden. My aunt and uncle knelt down beside me and offered comfort as I crumbled before them. "Although we may not be your biological parents, and you may feel uneasy, we will ensure your happiness," they said. Tears filled my aunt's eyes as she embraced me tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. Olivia, you deserve to experience joy. We should have come for you earlier. If you are agreeable, we would like you to become our daughter. My uncle added, his eyes becoming red as he looked directly at me. I pondered if I had ever been wanted by adults in such a manner before. Even though I was just a little over 10 years old, I knew what I needed to decide. I chose to become their adopted daughter. Fast forward 10 years. Since they took me in, my aunt and uncle have showered me with an abundance of love and have provided me with countless delightful experiences. My aunt takes pleasure in selecting clothes for me and would take me shopping during holidays. When I turned 21, my uncle surprised me with a bottle of wine from the year I was born. He had always expressed a desire to have a drink with his daughter, and this gesture meant a lot to me. We had many memorable experiences together, like going on trips to zoos and aquariums, even when I was in high school. These moments were truly special and something I never had with my biological parents. Initially, I referred to my uncle and aunt as such, but over time, I began to see them as my true parents. Now, I lovingly call them Mom and Dad. I later learned from them that during a visit from my biological parents, they made hurtful comments about me while under the influence of alcohol. They described me as hopeless, not cute, and lacking in appearance and intelligence. They even went as far as saying that they didn't need a daughter like me because they had their excellent eldest son, Scott. My aunt and uncle were rightfully furious upon hearing these words. When my parents threatened to prevent me from attending high school, the topic of adoption was brought up. I will forever be grateful to my aunt for her sobriety on that New Year's Eve. She drove all the way to me in the middle of the night to ensure my safety. This act of love and protection solidified my bond with my foster parents. I am determined to repay them for all they have done for me. I strive to be the daughter they are proud to have adopted. With this goal in mind, I dedicated myself to studying relentlessly once I entered high school. To be honest, there were many challenges during my high school entrance exams, and I couldn't fully concentrate. However, I made a decision to work hard and excel in my studies after starting high school. In my quest for a future that wouldn't cause embarrassment to my aunt and uncle, I set a goal for myself. Through sheer determination and hard work, I was fortunate enough to gain admission into a prestigious public university. However, this achievement alone did not suffice in expressing my gratitude towards my dear parents, my aunt and uncle. I yearned for them to lead a comfortable life in the years to come. With this in mind, I continued to dedicate myself to my studies even after entering college. During my time as a student, I managed to obtain a license as a weather forecaster, which eventually led me to appear on television in that role. Furthermore, I wanted to make my aunt and uncle proud, so I diligently focused on maintaining a healthy lifestyle through dieting and exercise. As a result, I earned the endearing nickname of the beautiful weather forecaster. Reflecting on the past, I always bore a resemblance to my brother in terms of appearance, indicating that I had the potential to be beautiful as well. Although my aunt and uncle constantly express their pride in me, I feel that I have now become a daughter they can genuinely be proud of. I am overwhelmed with a sense of obligation and gratitude, and I refuse to hold back my efforts in repaying them. Just when I was contemplating this, my biological parents unexpectedly appeared before me. "Olivia, oh, you've grown so much. You've become such a remarkable young lady," they exclaimed tearfully as they embraced me. This encounter took place just as I was leaving the TV station and about to enter my car, leaving me unable to fully comprehend the situation. It had been such a long time since I had last seen them that I initially failed to recognize them. They were shocked to witness my television appearance, as Scott had informed them that Olivia was on the screen. Never did they anticipate that I would become someone of such stature. I am a stunning lady and also a meteorologist. That's absolutely remarkable. My father, as if to imply, just as anticipated of my daughter, patted me on the shoulder. Truly, just as expected of our daughter. We are so proud. They truly said it. I couldn't conceal the expression of revulsion on my face and glared at my parents. But my parents continued the conversation without displaying any indication of concern. Oh, that's correct. Since we've met, why don't we have a meal at the upscale restaurant just ahead? You must be earning a lot as a meteorologist, correct? What is their intention after deceiving and waiting for me like stalkers? And after proposing a meal at a fancy restaurant, they inquired if I earn a lot. Don't they just appear like they're attempting to freeload off me? They won't be able to leech off me. I have to push them away so they won't desire to see me again. As I pondered this, a plan emerged in my mind. Oh, this could work. Mom, Dad, it's pleasant to see you, but I have another commitment today, so I can't go out to eat. Apologies. Naturally, I didn't have another commitment today, so I can't go out to eat. Apologies. Naturally, I didn't have another commitment. I do have a plan to treat my beloved aunt and uncle to a meal at an upscale restaurant as a wedding anniversary gift. Oh, that's unfortunate. I didn't miss her slight click of her tongue. Could you perhaps share your contact information? I'm organizing a small celebration for my birthday soon, and I'm inviting individuals from the television station. There will be an abundance of delectable cuisine, and it will be elegant, so I was thrilled to extend an invitation to you as well. Upon hearing this, my parents' eyes noticeably sparkled. Really? Oh, aren't we fortunate? So will actors be attending too? Oh, Dad, of course they will be there. My parents were visibly excited, their smiles growing wider. Little did they know, no actors would be present. It was a small gathering, primarily a celebration for weather reporters. The main guests consisted of people from the newspaper and TV station staff. At most, the most glamorous attendees would be the announcers and some TV personalities. Meeting my parents' expectant gaze, I simply smiled and said, "See you at the party," then departed. A month later, as planned, I reserved a venue and my birthday celebration took place. Despite its intimate nature, a decent number of individuals gathered because, well, we rented a party venue. My parents arrived, waving their arms and calling out, "Olivia." They acted as if they wanted everyone to be aware that they were my parents. It truly irritates me. "Dad, Mom, welcome. Could you please proceed to the dressing room right away? They will assist you with everything from your attire to your makeup. The clothes you are wearing are lovely, but they also have rental designer clothing available. Enjoy the ambience while you are here." At my suggestion, my parents beamed with joy. They were so transparent, they cannot conceal their happiness. Oh my, designer clothing. I rarely have the opportunity to wear such garments. I wonder if they will suit me. Haha, Mom, you have gained a bit of weight. Oh, stop it, Dad. While they were engaged in this banter, I complimented them. You both still appear youthful and stunning, so anything will be suitable for you. It appeared as if they had been anticipating that compliment, and they both nodded in agreement. When I was a child, I was afraid of being disliked any more than I already was. I couldn't see my parents clearly, and I couldn't comprehend what they were thinking. But observing them now, they appear quite uncomplicated. High-quality things, authority, beautiful things. They are the kind of individuals who enthusiastically embrace popular items. My parents, after having their hair and makeup done, were in high spirits as they returned to the party location. My mother was wearing a light pink mini dress that exposes her shoulders, something a young lady would wear. Her appearance was ridiculously inappropriate for her age. The sagging skin on her knees revealed her age. My father opted for a vibrant red suit with a flashy tie adorned with yellow and green geometric patterns. He was the sole person in the venue dressed in such an ostentatious suit. Even if there was no specified dress code, no one would select such a mismatched ensemble. The clothes were indeed designer labels, but they were previously owned. I had actually prepared all of them. I wanted my parents to wear these today. These clothes bring back memories of a family gathering we attended when I was young. When I mentioned that, neither the makeup artist nor the costume staff questioned it. Naturally, I have no recollections of attending a party with these parents. A falsehood is a convenient way to I remember attending a party with my parents, although I don't have many memories of it. Deception can be quite convenient at times. My parents, who firmly believe in expensive brands, seemed quite pleased as long as I repeatedly affirmed that the outfit suited them. In the past, my parents would unquestioningly listen to anything my exceptional brother said, as long as it didn't involve me. But now, they are on the receiving end of such remarks, with the label of exceptional now being applied to me. Eventually, the party began, and as the center of attention for the day, it was my turn to give a speech. Before taking the stage, I informed my parents that I had a message for both of them in my speech. I asked them to listen carefully and held their hands. They looked at me with surprise and asked what it was, but they continued to gaze at me happily, even after I had gone up on stage. Thank you all for joining me today at my birthday celebration. I would also like to express my gratitude to everyone who contributed to organizing this event. I began. Upon hearing my words, my friends playfully teased me, exclaiming, "You're so formal. This isn't like you, is it?" In response, I jokingly replied, "I'm just being true to myself," and then turned towards my parents. "My parents are here today, right over there," I said, pointing in their direction. The lighting crew followed my cue and illuminated my parents with spotlights. These are my bold parents, who had the audacity to appear on TV and even set up an ambush for me. Despite abandoning me during my teenage years, I declared. A murmur spread through the crowd upon hearing my statement. It wasn't surprising, considering I rarely had the opportunity to openly express my feelings about my parents' actions. I have never discussed my past with anyone other than my close circle of friends. "What? Olivia, how could you make such a statement?" My mother stood up abruptly while my father was left in a state of stunned silence. Since I was around the age when I began attending kindergarten, those two constantly compared me to my high-achieving older brother, Scott, and always showed favoritism towards him. I was the one who never received any special treats and had to wear Scott's hand-me-down clothes. Despite all of this, I still loved my parents when I was younger. For a child, parents are everything. However, things changed during middle school when they started assigning me household chores and eventually declared that they wouldn't allow me to attend high school. They even refused to attend parent-teacher conferences. This is when my caring uncle and aunt made the decision to adopt me. It feels strange to talk about myself in this way, but I am generally a cheerful person. That is because my uncle and aunt have repeatedly assured me with love that I am not a bad child. They have allowed me to gain confidence and overcome my shyness, transforming me into the positive individual I am today. Therefore, it was quite a shock for the audience to see the stark contrast between my typically cheerful demeanor and my difficult upbringing. There were immediate whispers of disapproval, questioning how my parents could appear at their daughter's birthday dressed so poorly. The crowd began to criticize my parents. Unable to bear the judgmental gazes, my parents lowered their heads and trembled. However, I am now grateful to them. It is because of them that I was able to discover my true parents, my uncle and aunt. I have always been blessed with a loving and supportive family. When I expressed my gratitude towards my aunt, my parents looked at me with anticipation, hoping to be acknowledged as important figures in my life as well. Instead of responding directly, I simply smiled and maintained a calm demeanor. During the event, I called out to a friend from a magazine who was present, asking him to capture some pictures. However, to my surprise, he began photographing my parents instead. I quickly intervened, urging him to stop and protect my parents' privacy. It was important for me to stand up for them, even though our relationship had been strained. Growing up, there were many instances where my parents pushed me to do things I didn't want to do, despite my pleas for them to stop. I realized that it was unfair for them to force their desires onto me without considering my own wishes. In that moment, I couldn't help but express my frustration towards them. As my mother listened to my reprimand, tears welled up in her eyes. She apologized, acknowledging the potential harm that could come from turning this situation into an article. It was a bold move on her part, assuming that I still considered them my parents. But the truth was, their absence in my life had led me to find parental figures elsewhere. My uncle and aunt played a significant role in my upbringing, and I regarded them as my true parents. They provided the love, care, and support that I needed, filling the void left by my biological parents. It was clear to me that they were the ones who deserved the title of mother and father. I made it clear to my parents that I no longer wanted them to interfere in my life. The wounds caused by their neglect and absence were still fresh, and I needed time to heal. As I reflected on all that had transpired, a mix of emotions overwhelmed me, and tears began to flow down my face. The attendees at the event witnessed my vulnerability, and their concern was evident. I accompanied my parents as they exited the venue. It's finally over, for real this time. I have successfully severed all connections with those individuals. When I was a child, I distanced myself from them and sought refuge with my uncle and aunt. But now, I have completely distanced myself from them on my own accord. I feel a sense of accomplishment and gratitude towards my uncle and aunt. I shed a few tears to acknowledge the personal growth I have achieved. However, at this moment, I feel incredibly rejuvenated. Following that, the editor of a magazine inquired if I was truly content with my decision. I replied affirmatively and encouraged them to proceed. Consequently, they wrote an article about my upbringing. The story was quite remarkable and gained attention from various television shows. Initially, there were concerns about how this would affect my image. However, in reality, the narrative transformed into a captivating tale of a young woman overcoming adversity, a modern-day Cinderella story. The press coverage was mostly positive and actually enhanced my reputation instead of damaging it. On the other hand, let's reluctantly refer to those two individuals as my parents, although it may be confusing. After my story was published, they experienced social isolation from our neighbors, which led them to make the decision to relocate. The rumors quickly spread throughout my father's workplace, resulting in his resignation. Additionally, my mother, who had always been a homemaker, found herself unemployed. My brother Scott informed me that they were managing to get by using their savings. Even after I was adopted, Scott continued to express concern for me and would visit me at my new home with my aunt and uncle. Initially, he had I wanted to show them just how much their love and support meant to me. We had a wonderful time exploring the beautiful landscapes of Oregon, creating memories that will last a lifetime. My brother Scott, whom I hold dear in my heart, has always been a pillar of strength for me. He has been there for me through thick and thin, offering guidance and support. I am grateful for his presence in my life. However, after I shared my story with the magazine, Scott made the difficult decision to cut ties with our biological parents. He often jokes about not seeing them until their funeral, but I know deep down he wouldn't even attend that. It has been 5 years since that incident, and life has taken a beautiful turn for me. I married Mr. Treasure, who happened to work at the magazine that published my story. We now have 2 precious children, a boy and a girl, who bring immense joy to our lives. As a mother, my utmost priority is to ensure that my children grow up in a nurturing and loving environment, just like the selfless care I received from my aunt and uncle. I want them to embody kindness and compassion in their interactions with others, just as my brother Scott has done for me. While raising my children is a significant part of my life, I also have a deep desire to repay the kindness shown to me by my aunt and uncle. This year, for our wedding anniversary, I decided to surprise them with a trip to Oregon. It was a way for me to express my gratitude and create new memories together as a family. Despite their protests, I wanted to show them that their love and support will always hold a special place in my heart. As we explored the wonders of Oregon, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude for the life I have now. My aunt and uncle have been my rock, and I am forever indebted to them. They have always reminded me that I have my own family now and that I don't need to go above and beyond for them. However, showing them my appreciation is something I am compelled to do. In the end, it is the love and support we receive from our loved ones that shape us into the individuals we become. My brother Scott, my aunt and uncle, and now my own family have played significant roles in my journey. I am blessed to have them in my life, and I will continue to cherish and honor the bonds we share. The act of returning is also a fountain of delight for me. It's not out of duty, but rather because I desire to witness their elated countenances. It's something that bestows significance upon my existence. I playfully inform them, do not deprive me of my gratification, as I commence devising our subsequent unexpected occurrence. Perhaps a lavish lodging experience for the whole household would be delightful in the future.